Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Decisions Lunch and Learn. I'm going to be your host for today, Gregory Goldston, on this Wednesday, May 21st. As always, please check out our Decisions Support YouTube channel. We have a new video up there going over integration with the Kafka module if you're curious about how to set up a message queue like that inside of your Decisions environment. Highly recommend taking a look at that, as well as a variety of other concepts and videos that we cover on that channel. We have some long form content, short form content, some that are topical, some are here's how you do exactly this thing in decisions. And again, it's just a wide variety of stuff that I highly recommend taking a look at. Below that, we also have the Decision Solutions Marketplace. Please check that out. You can navigate to it from decisions.com, or you can get there from accessing the Decisions Forum. Either way, there are a lot of unique solutions there for what you might be looking for inside of your environment. You can import them, take a look at them, reverse engineer if you're trying to build something like it. It's a good thing to look at. And then, of course, check out the product roadmap that we've got back. You can sign up for that at decisions.com/events. There you will be able to see what's coming down the pipeline and the future of the product. So highly recommend taking a look at that if you got the time and you want to see what's coming along. So with that being said, I'm going to switch over to my decisions environment now. Please feel free to post questions and answer. Well, I'll post the answers, but feel free to post questions in the Q&A section and I'll be glad to go over them. So pardon me for just a moment while I switch over environments. This won't take long, as you all know. All right, and y'all should be able to see my decisions environment now. Now we got that, I'm going to bring up my participants tab because it's kind of important for me to unmute people and bring up the Q&A. So here we are inside of decisions. We are still on version 9.10. We got 9.11 in the works, and we have a question array. What is the best way to add elements between two elements in a vertical stack on the form? Sometimes it is hard. For example, if you want to put something between two header components. So what you're talking about, if I recall here, I'm going to allow you to talk real quick. So let me create a form. We're going to take a look at that. And this form is going to be vertical stack. I'll call it vertical stack.
Hello.
Hello, hello. You should be able to hear me now. We'll go into our layouts. Here's our vertical stack right here. Okay.
Oh, that's a split. That's different.
No, I grabbed this one right here.
Oh, sorry.
No worries, no worries. I got you. I almost grabbed that. I hovered over that and it's like, wait a minute. Yeah, so we got two vertical stacks that are on here. And then are they back to back? Like they're right next to each other?
No. They are, so the components are in one vertical stack. If you drag, let's say, two header components into
Okay.
that vertical stack.
All right, I'm going to put a grid layout here just so it's easier to see what's going on. So we got two header containers inside of a vertical stack.
Uh,
What?
not in the grid, just in
No
vertical.
grid, just in the canvas? Okay.
Yeah, so the reason to that is when I use header, I can collapse that and it kind of mimics the um how you call it. Sorry. So
Take your time.
if you collapse that, it will close that gap between two elements. So it's going to be
Okay.
kind of like responsive, I would say.
Okay. So we've got two header containers right here, and you're trying to put something between them is the goal?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if we try and drag this one down, that's not going to function because we got those two. Let's see how decisions handles this if I were to drag a text box. There isn't a space for a column, so I do wonder if that new functionality wouldn't work here because there aren't technically columns, you know? Yeah, this just got put inside of the actual header container itself. Do the
It would
header
be,
containers have grids inside of them?
yes, but it doesn't really matter. It would be cool if you can just right click on the header and say add element before or after, just like you
Hmm.
have in rows and columns.
I see. So we're looking to add an element after. So we add that, and then if we put that back in,
Right, but if you have like 10 of those,
you're looking to shove everything down, basically, right?
Yes.
Yeah, if you have multiple in a row. Okay. Well, I would say that probably the most performant way to do that, or probably the way that would take the least amount of your time, would be the cut paste method with those individual options. But I see what you're saying as far as like having that functionality extend to beyond just grid layouts for being able to slide between two elements. Because let me for those of the I'm going to move this up a little bit just so that other people can see. For those who are on the call and are not aware of this functionality in the higher versions of Decisions version 9, if you have two things in a container layout, two label, any form controls basically, and you want to add one in between, you can drag it and it will squeeze between those two controls. This is newer to these higher versions of Decisions 9. But what is being asked is if this can be performed inside of something that is not a grid layout. It actually specifically what's inside of a canvas layout, because that would be what is inside of these non-grid non-layout vertical stacks that we have selected as the canvas. And what is looking to be done is have drag something here, right? Well, I guess it's not quite canvas because it can still move around a little bit. But what's happening is auto snapping your selections to the header containers because, or sorry, the vertical stack, because the vertical stack does not contain a grid by default. And for this particular use case, adding a grid is not ideal. So what could be done is the copy paste method as mentioned, but as far as functionality with having a vertical stack that you could slide other elements between during design time, that would be a pretty neat feature request. That might be able to be implemented, but I am not the dev here, so I will ask them about that.
Also, Gregory, what would be a good way to like control the space between two components in vertical stack? Because, for example, if you drag like a grid layout, I do believe that will take like 100 pixels. If you drag a label, it would be like 25 pixels, I do believe. How can you control that?
Control the size of the grid layout, you mean, inside of it? So I'm going to remove the header containers real quick. I'm going to get rid of these. Okay, so we're inside of a vertical stack right now, and you're trying to control the size of elements inside of this, correct? So this is taking up a certain amount of pixels, and we're looking for a way to handle the size of that. I don't think changing this is going to really matter, but I am kind of curious. Let's make this a little bigger first. Oh, well, you know what? These are grow to size. I wonder if these were not set to resize, but fixed. We have another one that's grow to size, so that one's a little bit different. But hold on, let me edit this. Let's make this 30. And then let's see if we make the other one 30 as well, if that will change the overall size of the grid layout. And the answer is yes. No, it does not. Look at that. The grid is still persisting at that set size. Interesting. The columns should be expanding. Behavior probably doesn't change that, and view probably doesn't change that either. Let's see here. So we have a label that takes up a certain amount of pixels as well. The label text, of course, if you're putting it in a grid, would be that's a little bit different. So let me actually drop the label portion real quick.
Uh, Actually, I would assume if you drag that orange dot, that orange like border, if you drag that up, it would change, I guess.
It just might.
Oh, yeah, this way
Yeah,
works.
there we go. So go down here to size and tabs. You can set the actual size of this. You can also set a max size if you're still trying to resize it, but not have that, set. So here the width, I'll keep that actually as 200, but the height, let's change that to 120 now. It was at 200 before. That's how you can adjust the size of those components individually on such a layout where grid is not possible to snap to.
Okay.
Yep. So, yeah. I don't see a lot of people use this functionality down here. It kind of gets buried. I mean, I think people look at this and kind of assume that it goes from most important to least important, which in a lot of cases it probably is more underutilized anyway. But that's how you do that. Alrighty. Do we have any more questions? Be a good time to address them. I guess if we're kind of waiting on some people, I'm currently working on some JSON and XML formatting. There's actually a new video that will be coming out on our YouTube channel that kind of goes over formatting that appropriately, how the formats work, how to use them in decisions. It's just going to be a good overview of working with JSON and XML inside of the platform. So currently working on something like that that you all be able to see. If you all are curious how you get a JSON or XML data type inside decisions in a very easy to create way is by going to create data type / integration, and then you click on this right here. Now I can import either a JSON or an XML straight up, or I can put in a JSON schema that would allow me to specify what these properties are going to look like, and it will create the data structure for me in decisions. You can also create types from CSV and XSD. So if I were to pull that up, give me just a moment here. Where did it go? There we go. So if I had something that looked like this. So right here is some travel information. I will call it travel information. Not sure why it doesn't like that. Oh, it's just the spelling. Specify what I'm going to be bringing here. I could make this an array of, well, this is an array in JSON. I've got my data types, whatever my passenger is age is, their name, whether they're a citizen or not, where they're going, how long they're going to be staying there, and the carry-on items. The moment I hit create for this, you will see that I have these two structures get populated here. This is the one that I created, right? That has traveler. But because traveler is a nested type and also spelled wrong, you'll see that when you go inside of that particular one, you're going to have your other three properties there. So it creates these as two separate flow structures. Now, I do want to mention that these are flow structures. These are not database structures. So these are for the transporting of information. If you wanted to database save these, you will either need to create a database structure or alter something in some way in order to pass this information into there. This is not database save by default. But now, if I were to create a flow and I wanted to work with that data, is now just a normal data type that I can use anywhere. If I go to a create data step and I go to show editor here and I select travel, you'll see that my two JSON types show up. I can also serialize or deserialize the JSON that I get from somewhere into those types. So if I want to serialize it to pass it in as an API call, I could pick the data type that I want to serialize right here. I would pass in something of that object, or I can build data on it. So I can pass in my flow variables that I can then convert into a single line of JSON text and then pass it out to my API call. Or if you are trying to format text coming in from an API call that you're making, then you can specify what that looks like in here and then take the string to deserialize as an output from that API step. And now you have your JSON object inside of your decisions environment, inside of your flow structure now. So now it can be manipulated and worked with in decisions. Same thing goes for XML, just a different kind of structure there, but the same principles apply. So that's what's going on with that. It's, hopefully that gives a little bit of an overview. I'm assuming that the two people that are currently in the call know a good deal about JSON already, but I thought I'd at least cover that. So I will give it to 12:20 if no one else joins by then, or we do not have any more questions by then. We will wrap this up and just call it an early day.
Great, great. I don't
Yes.
have an issue with that, and it's not directly decisions related, but lots of people are having hard time to apply CSS on a checkbox or radio button.
Hard time applying CSS on a radio button or
Yeah,
checkbox.
so for example, if you want to change the color of the checkbox.
Okay. So I'll put a radio list right here, and I'll put a checkbox. All right. Let's put both. Oh, it's probably 2 words, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. So I got a checkbox right here, and you're trying to change the color of the fill for the checkbox, right?
Hmm. I
Okay.
mean, I don't have an issue with that, but I know that lots of people do.
I'm gonna guess two things with that. I don't know off the top of my head because I don't know who these people are. But two things that you'd want to be aware of is that when you're passing in that CSS, that you are, of course, applying it to the right ones. That I know is kind of a simple answer. The second thing is that make sure you have the important tag on those things that you're trying to override in order to make sure that your CSS takes precedence when you're creating it. That could be another issue where the other ones that are on default by decisions are taking precedence over the CSS that you are applying to that particular data control. So those would be my thoughts as for why CSS may not be applied specifically. Also, I guess the component name, because sometimes the component names do get updated over time. I would not say it's a common thing, but if you're bringing in CSS from something that used to work in a very old version of decisions, and now the component has been updated, has a changed name, it may not be applying correctly. That could be another issue. If you're trying to troubleshoot that, you can bring up F12, pull up your developer tools inside of your environment, get an idea if there's any sort of issues with that being applied, or use a CSS extension in your browser in order to check that. There are multiple ways that you can see what's being applied and what isn't inside of your environment. Doesn't even have to be during runtime. I could pull it up on the screen right now and see the CSS. I'm not going to do that right now, but I do want to at least mention that would be how you approach that. Accent color is a property to change checkbox from standard. Mm, gotcha. So accent color would be what you're looking for if you're trying to change the actual checkbox color of what is being checked inside of here. It's called accent color. We did have someone else join, so I think I will wait a few minutes in case we get any additional LNL questions. But right now, it's looking like we don't have anything. So feel free to ask away in the Q&A. Let me exit out of this if you don't mind. All right, so we got types from JSON, we got the vertical stack. I'm actually gonna, Vitaly, I'm gonna show off what you were talking about before is what functionality decisions has in regards to this. So currently, in the higher versions of version 9, we have the ability where if we have two data structures, or sorry, two page form controls that are right next to each other, you can hover over that and slide in a new one. It will create a new line in that grid layout in order to house that control. However, that functionality does not currently apply to other layouts, such as the vertical stack layout. So if we have a vertical stack that is inside of decisions, I'm going to drag this over. I'm actually going to drag this all the way to the bottom right here, and I put in two header containers. I do not have the ability yet in order to try to drag another one in unless there was a grid layout inside of this. So right now, the current way to deal with this would be to cut this object, put in your new one, and then paste, and that will give you the same functionality that you're seeking. But yeah, just wanted to spend a moment covering as far as what we have talked about.
Gregory, in the header,
Yeah, I'll re-edit. What you
in
got?
the header control, what's the use custom title
Use
property?
custom title.
Yes. So, do you know how that works?
I can look that up. I don't know that off the top of my head, but that's definitely something I could check for you. Give me just a moment. See if I can.
And also, I do have another one. So,
No, you're good. No, don't apologize. Give me just a moment while I pull that up. Pardon me. Okay. So what it's designed to do is it is supposed to use not a custom title, but a custom title format for however this title is supposed to look. And then it points to the folder that contains the data for how that format is going to look inside of this header. So it is not about the actual title itself, like the letters, but is about the formatting of it. And that data is going to be from that folder that contains that data. So that's what that's designed to do.
Okay. And another one on the label, uh,
Mhm.
there is something that calls add properties for label, I guess.
This one, label 4,
No. If you scroll down,
looking.
label attributes.
Label
What are those?
attribute.
Go up.
Where? Oh,
Yeah, this
okay.
one.
Let's take a look here. Key and value. Oh, ooh, I have a theory on what this is, but let me take a look. Hold on. Let me look this. Let me just check this, but I have a theory on what this does already. Let's see here.
Uh, that related to CSS, can you add something like color and value red? Would that change
I
any
can
color?
try. It might be a hex code sort of thing, but I don't mind. Key is going to be color. Um,
You could use red. It should work if that's CSS. Yeah.
we'll see if it works at runtime. No. I don't think that's how that works. Let me hold on. Looking, give me a moment. Georgia. Let's go with Georgia. That doesn't work. Nope. Let's try font family. Might have to figure that out. I'm not seeing what I was looking for. I was thinking it had to deal with like the labels for as far as linking it to certain form control components, but I am not seeing that functionality play out the way I was expecting. So I think I will have to check on that because I'm not seeing any noticeable change. Alrighty, yeah, let me get back to you on that. Let me ask someone. We have another question, by the way, so we will be addressing that right now. When adding a new output button to an existing form, is there an easy way to set up what the output option for all the fields would be for that form instead of having to manually, oh, I wish there was, to manually click on each field and select optional required, not required, because if a field says it has 100 fields, that gets really time consuming. I I can look into that, but I'll be honest, I don't think here, I'll let you talk. I don't think there is a way to automatically set that for every form component being used. So, to provide a visual for others that are on the call here real quick, when you have a button right here, I'm going to set this to done. when you go to any form control that basically takes in an input of data or a selection of data at some point, there is a list of outcome scenarios for that data, and you can set that either to required, optional, or not used. This means that when you click on this button, the data passed into here is either going to be required to be filled out. Optional means that you can fill it out, but it won't prevent the form from progressing if you don't. And not used means it doesn't even output it on that particular output. So both of these are set to required. All right. If I were to add another button, new route, and then I go back to these controls, you'll see I have more outcome scenarios. Now, let's say for new route, I don't want it to be required for new route, but I do want it to be optional. What the question is there any way to set this automatically for every single control you have on the form? To my knowledge, there is unfortunately not a way to do that. I will ask, I will absolutely ask for you, but I have never encountered such a way to do that yet. That wouldn't be more time consuming than doing it yourself, because I don't know what data property that falls under, and there might be a query that can be run against that, but I'm not certain. I'm not certain about that as an outcome.
Okay. Because I know you can highlight multiple things and, change that where it's like visible or whatnot, but there's nothing for like outputs. So,
Right. Yeah, you can
okay.
set multiple here, but there's not a default one for the output on that. The only way that this would be possible, in the current Oh, okay. The only way that this would be possible in the current version of the platform would be to have an understanding of what data this actually is in this form control. Like, for example, let me go over here real quick. Where are we? Where are we? I don't even see form control as an option on here. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking was probably not going to be that. What are my properties if I fetch this though, real quick? What do I get? Let's see real quick. If I debug this, I do get results. Storage option include database, markup, data form, system defaults, catalog. This isn't it. No. Okay. The only other option I could think of is because there are certain properties inside of the decisions environment that are saved as entities. And because of that, you can make changes directly onto those entities inside of a flow. So you would need, if this was possible, you would need filtering logic to, determine which one's on which form, which probably wouldn't be too hard, honestly, and then define the property and update it to the appropriate value. I can look if there's a way to do that. I can check if that exists in our platform, but to my knowledge, my current knowledge, I don't think so.
Gregory, you can use internal services, but it's going to be complex. But anyway, uh, form service or edit form service,
Yeah,
and
you
you
would
can
start a
create
new form session, right?
edit form session. Yes.
Yeah. So you have a form service right here. We'll see if it's this or edit forms. Yeah, it's probably a form edit service. Form designer service. That's it. Add component, add group, can paste, copy cut, has charges, get saving, get designer surface. Get designer surface would get the details about the form. Um,
You need to
form.
create the session.
Yeah, we're gonna need the other one. That means we need another one of these. Yeah, I haven't done this in a little bit. I did this back when I was creating a utility that would fetch all of the rules in one's environment that have a particular output in them. So it would allow you to see everywhere that you're using a particular output name or data component so that you could understand where they're utilized in your platform. I think it's under start, right? Start.
I
Or is
know
it create?
I've done that even in version 7, but I have done it for the rules. So for example, when I wanted end user to change verbs in a rule, but not touching the data mapping. So I created that in JavaScript. I stripped out the rule designer and then I used workflow to actually update the actual rule.
That makes sense to me. All right, I don't see the form. I don't see this in the form designer service. Hold on. Usually it's edit. Usually there's an edit service for this. Assign form down executive form. There's start. Start flow with forms. Like no. Is it just the designer thing? It's not. Tell me it's not a default thing, right? Like if I put in designer. Yeah, I would have to figure out which service this is. But the idea behind this, Robert, is that there would be a form service, kind of like as you see how formula edit service, there'd be something similar to that, like form service, that would allow you to start a form session. This one's for formulas, not forms, but you start a designer session, you get the formula ID, and now you have a designer session that is basically a tracking of you working in that designer at that time. So what you would do is you would do that for the forms. You would get the surface data. It may not be surface data. It may be another one, but you would fetch the appropriate parts of the components. It might be outcome. Fetch outcome. Get outcome. I don't see a get outcome. But you would get all the outcomes that would exist inside of it and then perform an update on those in the next step that would change all of those properties. That would be the only other approach to doing this. There's not a guarantee that this will work, but if there was a way to do it in the platform, this would be the way. We also have another Q&A from that saying, we are looking at enhancing the options available for multi-select configuration, and then outcome scenarios can be added to that list. Here, I can let you talk if you want to share on that.
Hey, sorry.
Hey, Kirsten. Welcome, welcome. You're good. Not trying to force you to here, jump in. Yeah.
No. I mean, it was good that I was here listening. Yeah. So for the form designer and page designer coming up soon, we have on our roadmap still being able to select multiple controls and have the option to configure more common properties than are available right now. So as I was sitting here listening, outcome scenarios seems like a good option to add to that like multi-select configuration list. So I just wanted to mention that I'll add that to my plans here, and hopefully it'll make that process a little easier.
Cool beans. Yeah, thank you for sharing some insights on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course.
All right. Do we have any more questions? All right. I think we'll do the going once, going twice. All right, and I think we will wrap it up there then. So thank you very much for attending, everyone, on this Wednesday's Lunch and Learn. Jeremy is slated to lead tomorrow's on Thursday, and I look forward to seeing you all there too. Have a good rest of your day.